Welcome to Inverkeithing High School Maths Department. Today we're going to be looking at writing ratios. A ratio is a way for us to compare values. So when we look at this diagram here, you can see I have squares and circles. So I can write a ratio in two ways for this diagram. Either squares to circles or circles to squares. And you'll see that they are slightly different. So when it says squares to circles, I first need to count the total number of squares that I have, and that is 6. And then I need to write circles. Well, I have 2 of them. So my ratio is 6 to 2. And what we do to show that is we use our colon to separate those two numbers. So the ratio of squares to circles is 6 to 2. This time, however, it says the ratio is circles to squares. Well, I know I already have 2 circles in my diagram, and I need to use my colon sign to signify the 2, and then I have squares, so it's 2 to 6. So, for my diagram here, I have 2 different ways to write my ratio, either in squares to circles and circles to squares. And that brings us to our top tip. The order in which you're asked to write a ratio is incredibly important. Otherwise, the wrong number will be indicated. So let's use this diagram here to try and write some more ratios. So my first one I want to write is the stars to circles. Well, I can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 stars, and I have 1 circle. So I'm going to write 4, colon, 1. My second question is circles to squares. Well, I have 1 circle, and then I write my colon, and I have 2 squares. What I find is most helpful is to first read the words and then write down them as they come across. So I wouldn't rush it and think about all of it. I break it down. I first write down my circles number, the 2 signifies the colon, and my squares number is underneath the word squares. That just helps me to check it at the end. Lastly, I'm going to look at stars to squares. Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 stars, and my colon for my 2, and I have 2 squares. So this ratio is written as 4 to 2. However, it can be simplified, and that's going to be the next lesson that we look at.